You see, if you're filled with shame and guilt about the relationship, you will carry out the narcissist's job for him. You will isolate yourself. The shame and the guilt about what's going on, about you can't actually show up and tell people what's happening because then you'll be vulnerable, then you'll be weak, then you won't be respected. All of these different things play out with shame and with the guilt that leave you incongruent. So it's almost like you put up a mask to be able to protect yourself. Happy 4th of July. I hope your day is going to go fantastic and is going to be the best day ever. The problem is when you're with a toxic person, your day might be awful. When you're inside a relationship with a toxic person, with a narcissist, what you'll have is holidays that oftentimes are completely ruined. Have you had holidays that he's ruined? That you've tried to be able to have a fun time as a family. You've tried to be connected with your partner, and as a result, it seems like it is the day out of hell. These happen more than what you want to acknowledge. And if you sat back and you looked at holidays and things that are momentous occasions or events inside of your own life, inside of your relationship, you see that oftentimes they're void of really true emotional connection, of true friendship, of there just being a commonality, and instead it being a blown up, out of proportion, something that ends up being crazy making. You don't understand what's even happened. When I tell you and I look at all of the different pieces that have happened over the past couple of years in your life, we could highlight all of the different special occasions, holidays, events, and they typically have this shadow that's cast over them. Now, sometimes when this happens, people don't really put the two connections together. They just think it's just a struggle. It's just a stressed out time. It's just something. And they don't actually look at the facts of the situation to realize it's the person that you're with. It's the toxicity that you're involved in and the fact that he's not the center of attention. Now, when you're inside a narcissistic relationship, narcissists want to be the center of attention. They want to have the focus on them. You could have a covert narcissist that is trying to do this very subtly, playing the victim, looking and acting a certain way where they are trying to push away the limelight in order to still have their importance be validated. And then you have a narcissist who is always trying to be the center of attention, and you can see very openly and overtly that this person is trying to gain all of the attention. But what happens when you're inside a different holiday, a different thing that is giving attention elsewhere, to someone else, to something else? Yeah, it could even be just the 4th of July. It doesn't have to be this momentous one. It doesn't have to be this amazing one. It doesn't have to be this one that's about you. It just has to be something that's not about him. So you might have today, inside of the 4th of July, you might have where you're disconnected, where there's tension, where there's frustration, simply because of the fact that the day and the holiday is not about him. It's that simple. But oftentimes people don't see it. When you're interacting with a narcissist and you're doing this oftentimes in a public way on a holiday, understand that your needs, your feelings, your emotions, they don't matter. What matters is his image. Now, this could be hosting a big event and having people over and him wanting to make sure that he looks good. This could be that you're hosting an event and he doesn't like it because then attention's off of him. You're interacting with other people that could actually point out to you that he's toxic. There's other chances of his mask slipping in front of other people. Maybe you have friends or family that are in town, or you have people that are going to come over. They might see some of the toxicity. Oftentimes we'll have narcissists that want to isolate you from your friends and family. So you might not get to do the things that you actually want to do, even on the holiday, because your family's toxic, because this, because that, all these different reasons. It's amazing how many people are isolated inside a toxic relationship simply because he slowly spoon-fed you lies about the other person, about what the other person said, about what the other person did, how he's uncomfortable about this other person, all different things that are not blatantly saying, no, you can't hang out with this person, or no, you shouldn't be with this person, but is slowly planting seeds of doubt. Just the other day, I was on a Zoom call with someone and they had lost track of one of their best friends. Like one of their best friends no longer came over to the house because she had anxiety about being around this guy. One of her best friends she thought was against her in several different aspects because of what he said about her. All of this trying to manipulate, trying to triangulate against the other person so that one person is only focused on what the narcissist is saying and not on the actual truth of the situation. Now you bring this into a toxic relationship, you bring this into a event or a holiday, and you'll find a lot of narcissists that absolutely ruin and pillage holidays. Oftentimes because, again, it's not about them. Sounds really childish, right? It sounds very caught up in themselves. So why would he actually be doing this? Why would this be something that he's focused on? And unfortunately, that's just the crux of it. There's many times that a narcissist will do or say or act in different ways to try to coach or train or manipulate your mindset to make sure that you're actually falling under the fact that it's all about him. This can be slow manipulation. This could be getting to the place that you realize you can't have fun unless it falls under his terms. You can't have this enjoyment unless it falls under what he wants. You can't act or be or do or actually experience different things in life unless it fits under the umbrella of what he wants for you and of what he wants for himself. There's many times that he will actually work on conditioning you. You've already seen this, whether you're in or outside the relationship, you're conditioned to view and to act a certain way. You're conditioned on what you can say. You're conditioned on what you can do. And this isn't things that he's blatant about saying you can or can't do. These are things that you're like, I'm probably not going to go out with friends because last time I went out with friends, a day or so later, there was this giant blow up and then he blamed me for not being present. You're going to have this. And so you'll have this around the holidays. You'll have this around different events in your life, trying to manipulate you and trying to make sure that you actually fall in line. Remember, part of what the narcissist is doing in your life is trying to establish control. He's trying to establish dominance over you. So when he's doing this in this type of environment, he's trying to make sure, hey, even though it's a holiday and even though you might feel like you can act like a normal person, you're not. Because you're still attached to me, I still own you, you're still a part of my life, and I still control what you do. Now that sounds weird when I say it, right? It doesn't actually sit because you're like, that doesn't seem like a normal person. You're not dealing with a normal person. You're not dealing with a person that thinks like you. You're not dealing with a person that has the same thoughts, opinions, feelings as you. Doesn't mean they're void of all of them, but it means they interpret them differently. They communicate them differently. They work through them differently. They process them differently, and they act different than you. And you're going to see this inside of your relationship today. Now, today might mark just a great day, and a great day because everybody's being fake. A great day because you're putting on a show for the kids. Y'all are acting like you're happily married or happily together for the sake of other people. But in reality, you're dying inside. In reality, you're just putting on a front. And part of you is not sure how much longer you can actually put this front on. You've been doing it a while to your workplace. Just showing up, just going through the motions, making decisions you normally make. But there's an incongruency there. There's a piece inside of you that's thinking, if they actually knew what I'm going through, they would laugh at me. They would think that I'm a weak person. They wouldn't even respect me anymore. Like, who is she to actually deal with all this toxic stuff? And then she expects to lead us? So you're going to see different pieces that you're going to feel incongruent. You're going to feel ashamed. You're going to feel at times like you're the narcissist or that you're crazy because you're putting on a mask. And this mask that you're putting on is just to be able to appear normal and not abused. Because being abused and being stuck in a toxic relationship isn't a fun and wonderful experience. It's an experience that oftentimes brings a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. A lot of shame and a lot of guilt because you stayed in the relationship, because of how awful the relationship is. And honestly, shame and guilt sometimes work to the narcissist's favor. Because if the shame and guilt is bad enough, you won't say anything. You won't communicate to other people of things that are going on. Now, sometimes this has already been him grooming you. Him grooming you to tell other people how amazing the relationship was inside of the love bombing phase. And then as he started to value you, he started to make you think that it was your fault so you didn't say anything to someone else because you didn't want to put that out there. Like, I've been telling people it's been amazing. Now I need to tell them it's not amazing. And then you get to a place where it's so far gone, you feel like you can't tell anybody at all. Because no one's going to believe you because of how many times you've talked about how amazing the relationship is and kept that up while he told you it was all your fault. So a narcissist oftentimes is going to blame and project and put this on you to try to convince you and keep you isolated, to try to keep you filled with shame. You see, if you're filled with shame and guilt about the relationship, you will carry out the narcissist job for him. You will isolate yourself. The shame and the guilt about what's going on, about you can't actually show up and tell people what's happening because then you'll be vulnerable, then you'll be weak, then you won't be respected. All of these different things play out with shame and with the guilt that leave you incongruent. So it's almost like you put up a mask to be able to protect yourself. Now, this is understandable because of how much he's trained you. He's trained you that when you show up a certain way, you get lashback. When you show up a certain way, you get yelled at. When you show up a certain way, you get belittled. But I want you to consider that shame and guilt will keep you trapped longer than anything else. So what we do is we actually bring people into an environment where you can release the shame, process the guilt, step into a place where you don't hold yourself at blame for stuff that's happened to you that you didn't even understand at the moment. Oftentimes people will look at the past and they'll judge themselves based on knowledge in the present, beating themselves up for what's happened. Now realizing you didn't know. There's a whole world about this, and there's a lot of different videos that we could do just on that topic. But today, there's a holiday. And today, there's an opportunity for you to be able to see the difference about how he's showing up, how he's controlling you, how he's manipulating you, how he's isolating you, how he's blowing up and making the holiday about him simply because that's all that his life is about. How you look, respect, treat, interact, act with him for his image and for his validation. If I can help you move forward in the healing process, go to rawmotivations.com today.